What is that? Get that out of here.
And we're live.
Woo!
Ah,
Yeah.
we're back.
Again.
Why is this the show called Kick It?
We're starting a new show. Kick It with Dylan Thompson. Oh, wait.
I'm out of here.
Oh, dude.
Bye.
Come on.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's wow. Well, I thought that just happened.
Hello and welcome to It's Happenin show, community grassroots media for the people by the people. I'm Jose Gloria.
And I'm Dylan Thompson. We are your hosts tonight.
Indeed.
Yes.
It's
Give it
happening.
to me.
It's happening as a movement of the heart and of the mind. It's the energy of the universe that creates waves inside us and all around us, which allows us to activate, motivate, then elevate vibrationally and intellectually towards love, truth, justice, and wisdom. It's happening in every which way.
It's Happenin is a culture of empowerment. It's people having the right to exist and participate as equals. It's a dream of what the world could be, but the future we want is only possible if we make it happen. So stand up, get informed, and fight back.
Fight back.
Fight back.
Ha
Oh no, don't bring the Joker back, dude.
He's coming back.
Retire that.
You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us, so we thank you because of you.
It's happening. Woo!
You have no excuse for getting that wrong anymore. You hear me?
God. You were off by 217 milliseconds, Jose. How dare you? Fix your latency problems, my friend. Good times. Good times are back. You made it another week, man.
We survived.
Yeah, man.
Yes. We made it. Haven't lost our mind yet.
No. I mean.
Yeah, haven't fallen into like a meth addiction or anything crazy like that.
No, you're getting close. The gateways are leading me there.
Oh my God.
But,
yeah.
You know.
But everything's good. Still keeping the beard. I got a little beard.
Oh, yeah.
Going.
Man.
It is.
Rocking it.
30 and some change. And
man, dude, I want to grab onto those. But, you know, I realized something that maybe you and I are experiencing that a lot of people are not. Or, like, it's just that, like, apparently going to the barber is a thing. Jose, have you heard about this? People can't because of the lockdown, right?
People are looking hella like grimy.
But I'm like, hey, that's my default. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't gone to the barber in like, I don't know, it's been a while. Good 6 years.
Yeah. It's like 6 years.
Probably now. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, so it's been crazy. Right, like no barber action, but trying to keep myself productive, right?
Yeah.
Cleaned out my garage today. It was awesome. Rearranged my room for like the third time in the past couple of weeks.
Feng shuied this time, or what?
Yeah, dude.
What?
I got
Okay.
Way all up in the mix. Yeah, so that's cool. But you know, you get to like when you have so much time on your hands, you get to like look at stuff and realize stuff like I realized that one, the streets of Santana are run not by dogs but by cats. These guys and cool cats and kittens are out there like meowing and claiming territory, and one even like climbed into like my storage, and like that dude got locked in for a day. And I knew because I went in and smelled like cat. I was like, what the? I'm looking everywhere, and then I see the little guy just staring at me. He's like, like, please, sir, just let me go. Please, sir. So yeah, I'm like, all right, wait for him to like scamper out. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can integrate into their whole society. Like, I thought this was like a, you know, like, what is it, Jane Goodall type of thing you were going into now? Like, I'm observing their behaviors.
Yes, yeah. In fact, I've almost mimicked their cat-like reflexes and so I can beckon a mate.
Like to see that. Tune in next episode for watching Jose do that. Yeah,
I'm just like to have pictures of me just finding like the cats and like roaming around with them at night. Stuff.
Man, that's the dream. That is the dream.
hey, you know, Tiger King got me inspired. I might not be able to afford like to kick it with like tigers. I can kick it with these little like tigrettes that are out roaming around the tough streets of Santana. Yeah. So
Goals, life goals.
life goals. And besides that, you know, obviously Netflix and all these things, but started watching The Wire. So that was very interesting. And and totally fits into, you know, our show today with our awesome guest, Thai Viet Phan, we'll have on in a little bit. And, but yeah, just the politics that we're constantly talking about, how it all intersects between the police funding and their tactics, and the city hall, and poverty, and education.
Right.
So it's crazy. And, you know, the drug trade, drug war. So must watch if y'all haven't. Definitely get that. Thrones. You can't be in politics if you haven't watched Game of Thrones.
You can't really understand it.
You really can't.
Right. Yeah, and that, you know, that's actually something Noam Chomsky has been saying for a while already. No, yeah. So yeah, we should actually do Jose's entertainment corner.
Entertainment corner.
The entertainment corner, because, you know, I mean, there's a lot of TV watching happening. Okay.
Yeah. Where does brand fit into real life? Into real life politics? Who would brand be? No, I don't think so. Like, we need a sorcerer type person. Maybe that could be you, Dylan. You know,
I'm a wizard.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
tap into.
I just went through my D&D manual. I've refreshed my spell list. Okay, sorry.
Right. Well, yeah, all that and more is coming to you. But let's go ahead and jump into our top stories, shall we?
Top stories.
Top stories.
This time starring Jose first.
Yeah.
In an interesting mix-up.
That's me.
Okay, you can't do that voice. That's alluding to future stories. Go ahead.
I'm getting all the money. Scrooge McDuck got none on me. So according to the Voice of OC, some Orange County residents defy at-home orders with protests in Huntington Beach and San Clemente. So this was a doozy. Folks, you know, I'm sure you saw it on your Facebook and the Twitter and all, you know, these things that we have that that you get to find out about these people that are out there crazy posting, having these protests in different parts of the country. So and in Orange County, in South County, we're no exception to the Trumpism and the cultism that comes along with it, and the dummism. Just straight
the dummisms. You heard it here first.
With many Orange County residents getting restless under public health orders to limit non-essential trips out in public to help spread the novel coronavirus, some are openly defying stay-at-home orders to hold protests out in public. So Huntington Beach police officials estimated that more than 100 people waving American flags and carrying signs supporting Trump while criticizing California's statewide lockdown gathered in a cluster along Main Street and Pacific Coast Highway, HB, on Friday. So they were chanting USA, waving signs, telling people to defy fascist lockdown. And one sign saying COVID-19 is a lie. Yeah. There was even a man there, like all in, like, you know, with the protective gear, and that said that like COVID-19 is like Chinese like propaganda or whatever.
China.
Like, well, why don't you just take all that off, buddy, and like, you know, like prove us wrong.
Right.
Yeah. This is serious natural selection happening right now. It's like, you know,
let nature take its course.
They're taking their, you know, reckless behavior to back to the communities. And to other people that are vulnerable. In Newport and Huntington, there's been a significant amount of cases there. So, this is not exclusive to Orange County, right? There was further down south in San Clemente, but also, I believe,
different places across the United States, right?
Correct. Yeah, Trump was like saying, like, liberate Virginia. That was one of them. Liberate yourselves. We will not stand by this COVID-19 freaking 5G conspiracies by the deep state.
Did you see some of their signs? like socialism distancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, when in doubt, blame socialism and communism.
Yeah, freedom. Yeah, I mean, it's not like this isn't an interesting question about freedom and like when's the appropriate time to do this thing. But I mean, based on the evidence, it seems pretty clear that social distancing does work. It does slow the spread. And here's another thing. Like, let's wait and see what happens in Denmark. I mean, some other countries are actually already trying to just loosen the restrictions and stuff. And we should be able to fairly quickly see how that affects transmission rates and everything, with how much scrutiny is on it right now. But yeah, until there's a good evidence to think that there's a better way of handling this, I mean, it seems clear we should stay the course until advised by scientists. Okay.
Science.
Okay. Trump doesn't know what he's talking about here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he goes from one day saying it's a lie to being forced to say you have to do stuff to, who knows?
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting situation, and I just can't get enough of how much Trump loves being in the public eye with all the high ratings at his press conference go, and he's just firing off. But anyways, we can talk on and on about the madness, but yeah, Trump is out of control, I tell you. He is.
Oh,
yeah. But I mean, more to come on that.
More to come.
No doubt.
Oh yeah. Well, we got some more COVID stories. Actually, it'll be kind of a theme running throughout the show. I mean, that seems to be all that's happening, right? Like,
is there anything else happening?
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna, once we can go outside, we will. I mean, no, actually, no. Just say you did report on that cat story at the top of the hour. Yeah. So we still are sending journalists out to the field to capture the stories that really tug on the heartstrings of the residents of this.
Don't even get me started on these pigeons.
Yeah, that's right. That was in the notes. We didn't get to it, but that'll subscribe and you can hear pigeon content. Okay. No promises. Okay, so next top story. So we have a federal judge in Kansas who has blocked limits on religious gatherings, or basically they're blocking the limits on religious gatherings rather. So on Saturday, a judge in Kansas blocked limiting attendance at in-person religious worship services or activities to 10 people or fewer to check the spread of the coronavirus. So basically, this is probably something that's going to be a trend across the United States as religious rights organizations, the churches, kind of fight back against these restrictions and kind of feel like this is very essential to a lot of people, right? When you talk about essential, right? And they take this very seriously. So I think this is just the start. And basically all this is doing is saying that churches can resume service, but everyone has to observe social distancing in order to attend, when the previous policy was basically like, there's no audience, like you can't come. I think like churches could still perform, but do like online services, right? So, I mean, this will be an interesting, again, this all comes down to fundamental beliefs versus like a maybe evidence-based response to a crisis. Like both of these are really important. Which one's going to prevail here? And it's kind of like similar to our previous story, right? Like there's going to be a lot of people where their religious rights are going to trump anything.
Yeah, it's very interesting when religious rights get come into play when it versus for like civil liberties, right? And this is one example of it, but also measles and mumps and vaccinations of these things and other things come to mind, whether the whole anti-vaxxer movement and just other situations where people are having to going to war, right? Like at what point can the rights of religions be protected, or folks that practice religions without getting mixed up into potentially damaging and hurting the collective? So I mean, people can get on Zoom and, you know, watch their favorite preacher. You know, you don't have to go to church. Like, you know, I promise you, Jesus is with you wherever you want to, you know, access him. You know, like, yeah, promise you. So,
Yeah.
do it safely from home. You don't need to go to churches where these people are saying, like, we're gonna blow away all of the bad, you know, juju and the COVID-19. Be gone, COVID-19.
Or what's worse is the pastor and forget some southern state that was basically having people send their COVID stimulus check to him, and yeah, it drew some protesters to his church. Actually,
Yeah,
yeah, no bad time for opportunism.
never. I mean, you know, like there's money to be made. You know, there's funds to, you know, to that to be put in the little basket, like, you know.
Yeah. But he like
Gets to be bought. Like there's things that need to happen. You know, can't let this little thing, this little, you know, passing flu get in the way of that. But
of God's work.
You know, I mean, I'm a believer myself, and I definitely understand to, you know, stay connected with, you know, community, but come on,
yeah,
we need to practice some common sense, some sensible measures to prevent this stuff from happening, so that not unlike those other gods that are totally incorrect.
Okay, it's going to take a while to unpack that last one, but but I do. Next story. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. High pay for Disneyland Area Resort Promotion Group Visit Anaheim called out an email memo from Anaheim City manager after city bailout. So this is a lot to unpack. Can't even begin to talk, but it is definitely connected into the next story. But another one from Voice of OC. Anaheim City Manager Chris Zapata raised concerns about high pay of top executives at the Disneyland Area Resort Promotion Group Visit Anaheim after the city offered the group a $6.5 million bailout, according to an email memo Zapata sent to the city council yesterday morning, or you know, a few days ago. This was from the 17th. That same afternoon, an online city agenda item began circulating about a closed door discussion about Zapata's firing or resignation. In his April 16th memo, Zapata questioned Visit Anaheim's CEO Jay Burris' $433,000 annual salary, as well as the salary of senior VP Christina Dawson, set at $318,000. Zapata proposed reductions for both. Visit Anaheim is the hotel tax-funded advertising arm of the resort industry, which is shut down indefinitely due to the novel coronavirus pandemic. Last month, Mayor Sadu proposed a $6.5 million contract for the advertising group. So yeah, he had offered a 10% cut to his own salary, actually, in that same memo. You know, in memo, he noted that there has been significant impact to the city of Anaheim's economy and business model. Yeah, this was his recommendations, but apparently people on the majority in the council did not like that and are now looking to get him axed. So this is kind of like, you know, what it has come down to in Anaheim with the cronyism just run rampant and the city really up for grabs. It's really a frustrating, unfortunate situation. You know, friend of the show, Dr. Jose Moreno, has been on the front lines, you know, fighting back against a lot of this, but he's been marginalized almost entirely, even having his comments cut short in the live feed of when he was, you know, trying to address, you know, this huge, you know, corporate bailout of these industries that is not really going to go into anything worthwhile, like, you know, keeping people employed and things like that. Going to go to executive bonuses and things of that nature. So,
right, yeah. Got to guard against that around this time, and I mean that totally feeds into my next story, which is extremely related. Basically, Disney is going to stop paying 100,000 workers, but is still on track to give shareholders $1.5 billion. So basically, I mean, it's going to lay off nearly half of its workforce. And this was a story reported today. And it's basically going to save $500 million a month just across all of its theme parks and stuff just by doing these layoffs. And it's going to try to float on that savings. In addition to, I mean, it's basically, it leaves their staff reliant on like state benefits, right? I mean, like all the people that are laid off now, basically the government has to subsidize them. And then we're subsidizing Disney, while Disney gives like a $1.5 billion dividend to its shareholders, right? So yeah, is this justice? I mean, or is this is this plundering during an emergency?
Yeah, it seems very much like we are ripe for the plundering, and that's the most unfortunate part of this all. Right now, folks, because of the COVID-19, many folks receive their checks. Some folks are waiting still for theirs. Locally and statewide, and city councils and city local governments are doing their best to try to help out their community in this moment. But by and large, the crisis vulture scenario is very much playing out in local city governments, especially in Anaheim, one that is very much entrenched in the worst of the worst in as far as corruption and backdoor deals. And so it's not surprising that Disneyland having had so much power to do things for themselves, as far as looking for bailouts, are also looking for bailouts from the local city government. They don't need it. They're a multi-billion-dollar, international corporation, but they're going to take it away from, from communities that really need it, and not help out their workers. It's just egregious and deplorable in every sense.
Oh, yeah. And just one more comment on your story. Like, you hate to see this happen, because like this is what's been happening in Santa Ana for the last few years, right? Just whoever is causing trouble in the administration and the staff are getting fired by politicians who, like, their donors don't like what the staff are doing, right? We went through a few city managers. I mean, like, think about like the cost of that, the indirect cost of, like, there were moments in our government where we didn't have any heads of any of the departments because the staff was there was no security, right? Like, we basically stalled our government because of all this instability. And now look, we don't have a general plan update, and it's been, I don't know how many, has it been decades? I mean, it's been a long time, right? There's a lot of work that has to be done. And so not only so I hate to see this happen, because there's a direct cost to like all the subsidies they're getting, right? But then the indirect cost is like the instability of our government working. So
yeah, no, it's definitely pay to play. And without sounding like a broken record, Citizens United allowed for hundreds of thousands of campaign dollars, to be flooded into, elections that are going to impact us one way or another. And so whether it's the Police Officers Association or the tourism industry, which Visit Anaheim is like, the front of that, which, a lot of the people behind that organization donated hundreds of thousands, if not millions, into electing the council that they wanted, that was going to give them everything that they did. So, it's definitely the world that we live in. And
yeah.
so deeply do we need, people that will be willing to do the right thing for
Oh,
it.
yeah.
But yeah.
And to that, I say, Viva Zapata.
Viva Zapata!
You got to make a shirt. You got to make a local Anaheim shirt that says Viva Zapata on it. All right.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I'm with Zapata. Yeah, man. But yeah, Vern Nelson's been on the show. He has his Orange Juice blog. He talks about this and all sorts of stuff, including an interesting take on the recall of Cecilia Iglesias, because it appears to be a conversation that people are having.
Well, speaking of a conversation,
yeah. So yeah, let's get into that conversation, because as folks know, we had the Councilwoman Cecilia Iglesias on the show last week, and a lot of folks got to hear from her about her stances on various issues that are very important to the residents in Santana. Also heard some criticism, some questions about her background, and so on and so forth. But the question remains: what is at stake here? What are we in line to support? What are the values and principles that we need from our elected officials, or those that are choosing to run for council? And since it seems a lot of times we have a shortage of good candidates to run, and so when people, and sometimes there's a need for courage for people to take on the powers that be, and to to try to raise money and build people power to get out their message about why they think that they have the right solutions for it is. So the question is still up, and about whether or not to recall Cecilia Iglesias. But in the case of a recall, there is the question about who is going to replace Miss Iglesias. So with that, we have 3 candidates that are going to be coming up. One of Angie Cano, Nelida Mendoza, but the one that is on the show here today is Thai Viet Phan, who is running to replace Cecilia Iglesias for Ward 6, Santa Ana City Council, a candidate for Ward 6. Welcome to the show.
Woo!
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Yeah, so let me read a little bit about you. So you're born near a refugee camp in Thailand after your parents fled from Vietnam during the war. Thai attended local public schools, completed her bachelor's at UCLA, and later graduated and studied studied at USC with a dual degree in law and master of public policy. Today, Thai works as an attorney for Rutan and Tucker, where she provides Santana where she serves or helps with the Santana Planning Commission, right? or you serve on the Santa Ana Planning Commission, and then where she advises City Council and helps oversee an array of crucial issues, including housing, land use, and small business development. And she's also on the board of the Vietnamese American Bar Association of Southern California and the Heritage Museum of Orange County. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. So it's Rattan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wrong?
Billy and I were like, we talked about this.
Yeah, no, third time's a charm, they say.
Rattan.
So
yeah, well, thanks.
Like Wu-Tang?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks so much for having me, y'all. I say y'all, I spent some time in Tennessee. But yeah, no, I'm really glad to be here. My family came here in about 88. So kind of the kind of leftover remnants of the war that was still happening in Vietnam. And, been in Santa Ana ever since, over 20 years and 10 years in LA for undergrad and law school, and came back. Now I live 5 minutes away from my mom, so it's kind of nice.
Wow. So you how much has changed since you came back, or since you've noticed, like, from what you were growing up to what you?
Yeah, so I came here when I was about 1.5, born near a refugee camp, and then we ended up in the Philippines for a little while. That's kind of the way station for a lot of folks, and then landed in Santa Ana. Grew up here, went to public schools, but always lived on the west side because the west side of Santa Ana is a fourth of the Little Saigon community, which often gets overlooked. In Santa Ana, people kind of think it's Westminster, Garden Grove, and Fountain Valley, but we have, tens of thousands of Vietnamese people living there. And, went to Garden Grove Unified School Districts, which again is like that other part of Santa Ana that people forget about all the time. But, went to public schools, had incredible teachers who were just really dedicated to all of us. So I went to UCLA in 2006, and I was there, graduated law school in 2016, so in LA for 10 years. And coming back was really eye-opening. It was very different in some areas, and some areas were just exactly the same. For me, where my mom lives, which is kind of near New Hope and McFadden, it kind of looks the same, except the storefronts on Harbor are a lot of them were shuttered. Nothing got upgraded. And then of course you go to downtown, and I was like, what is this place? It looked like Culver City. It's really different. The restaurants were all different. I had never seen any of them before. And so it was really a bit of a shocker because, growing up, when you're an immigrant family, your parents really, your world is very small. I tell people that my life was basically within, Westminster Beach, kind of Bristol and Warner. Like, that was my world. And so coming back and exploring Orange County more and more of Santa Ana even, it's been definitely eye-opening.
Yeah. It's Santana is a beautiful city. There's a lot of different aspects of it. We always get dogged on, and people like to talk crap on us, and or like the dark area you should never go in The Lion King type of thing. But
except they come here for like the mural pictures and the Instagram photos, or that kind of stuff. The best tacos in Orange County, I guess.
Taco trucks at every corner, so I hear. Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, Santana's very diverse in some ways, but very similar in socioeconomics.
Mm-hmm.
Large portions of it. But then you have this little area called Floral Park and the surrounding neighborhoods that are very well off. They got acres and acres and big old, like Victorian style homes, and while people are crammed into little into apartments and rooms and houses, and also Santana is one of the most expensive places to live, for as much as perhaps the economic, like the medium income is probably not as high as some other places that have such high income. So we have a lot of problems, not to mention the issues of corruption and city government and city managers coming and going, and the tug of wars between the powers that be that control politics, right? So we have all sorts of questions on all sorts of of these
yes.
things. So
bring them, because
like
actually when you're talking about overcrowding and all that, I've actually spoken at city council about it, because for me, housing affordability is such a big issue, because I grew up living in overcrowded housing conditions. One of the big projects that I think I was at planning commission or city council for like 5 hours just to wait for it for a long time, was a Jamboree affordable housing project. And it was in kind of like an industrial like area, and it wasn't displacing anyone. No one was living there, and it was going to be all affordable housing. And for me, that was just really important, because as I mentioned, I'm an immigrant refugee, and the first home I remember in Santa Ana was sleeping in a garage with my mom and my sister, because there were so many of us living in that house. We every room was taken by somebody, including the living room, and that is the kind of life that many of us have experienced or are experiencing. And so for me, housing affordability, housing issues, development, those are all important because I've lived it. And going from someone who slept in a garage with no windows before accessory dwelling units were legal till now, where we were just able to buy a home last year. It's a townhouse here in Santa Ana, because my husband is a veteran now, and we qualified for the VA loan. So we didn't have to put any money down. Like, you shouldn't have to serve in the military to afford a home. You shouldn't be a trust fund baby to afford a home, and you shouldn't have to try to get an FHA loan that some lenders won't take, or certain sellers won't give you. So there's just a lot of issues there, and that's really core to what I want to do on city council, among other things.
Yeah, I know, Dylan, about the history of vets in Santana, right? So there's definitely a tie-in on that, as far as I believe back in the early 20 after the war, there was a lot of loans for veterans in Santana, where a lot of people were able to get homes for that first time. So
right, yeah. And then while we are on the housing issue, before we move into some of our more timely discussion about some upcoming stuff, can you talk about some more, like what are some other problems like facing, like not only just the city as far as housing goes, but its residents, and maybe you could suggest a solution too.
Yeah, so as many viewers will know, that Santa Ana has a median income that's $20,000 approximately lower than the average median income, or the median income of the county. So housing that's considered affordable in Irvine or Tustin or Anaheim is not actually affordable for residents in Santa Ana. So a lot of it is addressing housing issues for residents who already live here. But I think that there's also a lack of what I call middle housing, the missing middle, right? Townhomes, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, where families, I think it's more culturally relevant, and it's more community oriented, because you can live near each other, you can live next to each other, but there's this space to get to, some people's version of an American dream, where you can still, scrounge together some amount, because a $400,000 townhome is still more affordable than an $800,000 single family home. And those were kind of the prices that we were seeing. And it was shocking because, people have this notion that Santa Ana is low income and whatnot. And our residents do struggle with being working class, with being immigrants, with being, lower income. But Santa Ana also has one of the fastest growing housing prices in the state, or in the region, because there's just a lot of things going on in the city and the metro area itself. So I think it's really important to address kind of not just, affordable housing or low income, however we want to define that, but also housing for the middle, because as millennials are, becoming older, getting older, thinking about starting a family or expanding or being able to afford a house, well, a lot of us are not staying in Santa Ana or in Orange County at all, right? We're moving to Riverside, we're moving to San Bernardino, or just out because that's the only way we can afford a home. But then you destroy communities because now I can't be near my mom, I can't be near my family, I can't be near my aunt. So I think a lot of those things you can address with zoning, planning, and good land use.
Yeah, we definitely need some planning. We have a lack of some general plan. Go ahead, Joseph.
I will go on record to say that I've been complaining about the general plan long before I became a planning commissioner.
There you go.
Yeah, it's interesting when you get into advocacy, or and pushing certain policies and ordinances, how you understand how the general plan has so much impact in the way that cities do or don't do a lot of the development that they need. So there's different things that Santana has tried to do to put in place policies that allow for to address the substandard housing and the housing shortage. But also I would say that there's been a huge lack in being able to maintain the housing that is available, affordable. So when we get it, and that's when we get into understanding the fact that by and large most people will never be able to own a home. We are more and more growing into what is called a renter nation. All these people that are going to rent for the rest of their life, sadly. So yes, the middle class and getting folks home ownership is important. But also what's important is I believe strengthening the housing opportunity ordinance to make so that it's not as easily able to to find the loopholes in it, but also like looking into policies like just cause eviction and rent control, which is the three things that I would love to hear your thoughts on, and where you stand as far as housing opportunity ordinance, just cause, and rent control.
Yeah, so just cause, obviously we have a form of that under state law with AB 1482. So there is a version of just cause there. But of course I would like to see it strengthened because, I was a renter for a long time, and actually being a millennial, I was like, well, maybe I would never be able to afford a home. And as I said, part of the reason why I could was because of this VA loan. So I very much understand that, that difficulty. I definitely think that with the housing opportunity ordinance, right, inclusionary housing is really important. I think that we should make it as easy as possible to have inclusionary housing, because I think mixed housing, where you have, market, middle income, low income, moderate, et cetera, all of that together, you actually make for a more just society and a better community. I think that when we live with each other, we can experience each other's lifestyles, and we actually, I think, commingle in a way that makes the city better. There's plenty of evidence of that. You can look up studies of it. It's scientifically proven, right? So I think that's really important. And regarding, what was the last thing?
Rent control.
Rent control. I think that's definitely a tool in the toolbox, right? I have been a renter for most of my life. My mom is still a renter. She's been here for over 30 years, and she's never going to buy a home. And part of the reason why she can rent the place where she lives, because she doesn't want to live with us, is because my stepdad's brother owned that house, right? My uncle owns that house, and so she gets really low rent. So she has built-in rent control. But I really think that's just one tool in the toolbox. And I don't think that rent control is a panacea for all of our housing problems. I think that if we just implemented rent control for apartments, that's problematic because we have a lot of residents who are obviously struggling in mobile home parks. And under the state code, they have a totally different section where usually rent control ordinances don't protect them. And they're the ones being most taken advantage of because the investment they made in their mobile home doesn't grow but depreciate like a car, but they can't move because the mobile home isn't so mobile. But also, I think that if we just focus on rent control without building in, townhomes, duplexes, fourplexes, this kind of moderate density housing that I'm talking about in the right areas, it's like walking through the door and closing it behind you. It helps people who have a place to live, but it doesn't help people who are looking for a place to live. And so I think we really need to have a whole variety of options on the table and solutions and think about, where we can implement those things to make it work.
Definitely. I mean, what rent control is not a one size fits all. There's different rent controls, and so what I'm hearing is that you would be open to like proposing some kind of rent control for mobile home complexes, because that would be something that would be needed to be done, because they got written out of the law that you mentioned before. For good reasons, because they wanted to make a push for a stronger law. But as it stands, this is where we are. And so, as far as my personal belief and understanding, any kind of first class development projects, whether it's a light street rail that's chopping up 4th Street as we speak, to the developments that are being pushed in different places like 2525 North Main Street and other, and one that I was actually wanting to hear from you about is the Willow Wick situation, right? So this is an unprecedented situation in most cities to have into so much land, which I personally hate golf courses. It's a waste of land. Like, we don't need all of these. Like, this is ridiculous.
It is a privileged sport.
It is such a privileged sport. But we have a situation now where, what are we going to do with all this land? So there's a lot of debate and discussion about that. But by and large, what we what we see is the most loudest voices being these anti-development voices, whether NIMBYs or not in my backyard type folks. It's like, yeah, development is cool. Just don't develop homeless shelters, affordable housing, or really any kind of housing here. I like my neighborhood, quaint just the way it is. But at the same time, you have people saying like, you do more development here, it's going to lead to more gentrification. You liked all the stores that are in the downtown. Like, those stores led to gentrification in a lot of ways and are still leading to it. So I mean, what are your thoughts on Willow Wick and the struggle to fight against this thing called gentrification in Santana?
Yeah, I know gentrification is definitely a loaded term, right? And gentrification for some people is anyone new moving into the neighborhood. Gentrification for other people is anyone who didn't grow up there, etc. So I definitely think that, one, we have to have a basis for what gentrification is. And I think gentrification is bringing in potentially new ideas, new businesses, new housing that residents can't stay, and you're displacing more people than you're helping. And because I very much feel that we can't stay stagnant. It's just not possible. We have to move forward. But what that means is also helping longtime mom and pop shops, saying, businesses that have been here, that have contributed to the community, that are, cultural lifeblood of our city. We should be supporting them as a city because they are a public good. And so I think that's really important. But I really think it's also important to bring in new small businesses, because when you're looking at places that, new small businesses that employ 10, 15 folks, let's encourage them to hire folks in Santa Ana, people who live here. I think that's important, and I think that that's something we should do. Regarding Willow Wick, I know that there's a big push for, keep it doing an all park, right? Because it's a golf course, and I know that Santa Ana is park poor. We only 4% of our land is park, but again, we have a situation where we do lack housing in the city. So if we kept it all park, to me, part of it feels like, well, we're saying the people who live here, great, you're lucky, you're staying. But what about all the folks that can't find a place to live? What are we going to do about that? But I don't support something where it's all, only luxury and no one who actually is from Santa Ana can afford to be there, right? And we have to find some type of middle ground. It's 100 acres. I don't believe that 100 acres has to be all one or all the other thing. I think we can find a good balance, but that good balance has to come with, community benefits agreements where we ensure that it's local workers, local communities, that bring services to our local communities, that actually have programs for our local communities. I think, but to do that, we have to see what residents want. I spoke to someone today who raised a good point, which is, I thought the worst thing is to keep it a golf course because I've only been golfing once in my life. And that was for a charity thing that I got roped into, but I don't go golfing. No one I know who's from Santa Ana goes golfing, really. So none of our residents are using that golf course. So I don't really know who it's benefiting. But she brought up that, well, it's harm reduction, because if nothing happens, then no harm is happening to our residents. But I don't believe that harm reduction should be the only thing that drives us as we have a vision for the city. I think that in order to move forward and bringing new leadership into the city means we have to think about what's going to move us forward, not keep us stagnant. Because, as you were talking about the fact that we kept changing, heads of departments and city managers, and that kept us at a standstill, and our general plan just never got updated. Well, that's a problem. And it's still a problem if we decide to keep Willowick just a golf course that doesn't actually benefit the people who live here. So I want to talk to everyone. I am open to speaking to, anyone who has an idea or a thought about it and what we can do to improve it, because it's a lot of land and I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Big time, big time. Yeah.
That's a little bit of a soapbox, I know, but I'm like.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. So let's move on to some more exciting stuff. So I understand you're running in the upcoming special election, correct?
Yes, May 19th, y'all.
Okay, and we'll probably be voting by mail. So I expect the ballots should be coming out within a week.
This week, ballots will be sent out this week. Some people may have received it already. You should have already gotten your voter guide. There are going to be 2 questions on this. It's an all mail-in ballot election. 1, do you support the recall of Councilmember Ceci Iglesias? I hope you vote yes, and I can go into detail about why. And 2, if she is recalled, who do you support to replace her? And of course, I'm here advocating for myself, Viet Phan, second option on the ballot.
Right. So let's go into that first question. Why do you support the recall?
So there's so many reasons, but for me, it's really about the fact that she doesn't represent me. She doesn't represent my family. She doesn't represent my values. And I think that there's something wrong when we're in an immigrant city where she is herself an immigrant who, advocates for policies that don't support immigrants, where you're aligned with someone like Donald Trump saying that the wall is a good thing or that it protects the country, which it doesn't. What it does is it actually harms nature and costs us millions and millions of dollars, because Mexico is not going to pay for this wall. Look at China. The Great Wall of China did not work. So, let's not go back and, relitigate that issue. She doesn't stand with the LGBTQ community. She has said horrendous things about trans youth, LGBT youth. She doesn't stand with our public school teachers, who are the reason why I was able to work myself out of poverty, right? My teachers, the ones who spent Saturdays and weekends and after school programs, often, just on their own time to help me, is the reason why I went to college. So, when she disparages our public school teachers for her own gain, I am willing to stand up against her. And the fact is, she keeps pushing charter schools as parents' choice, but there's literally no evidence that charter schools are any better on average than traditional public schools. I know, I wrote a white paper on it in my Master's of Public Policy program. So, all of these things that she supports is really problematic. But even more problematic, let's say we put aside all of the policy issues. On a technical issue, as someone who's supposed to be a leader and is supposed to govern, just watch the last council meeting. She tried to bring up an idea to repeal Measure X, which is a voter-approved ballot initiative. Sure, you might have supported it in the first place, but it's under the California Constitution. You can't, as a city council, repeal something that voters voted on. Secondly, she was complaining about, and I hate to use the word complaining, but she literally was, that why aren't we appropriating money to fix Rate Street? What's wrong with that? And literally 20 minutes before that, she voted to appropriate money to fix Rate Street. And I just got a Nixle alert about how we're fixing Rate Street. So, that's the technical side of governance that isn't happening. She's not reading, it seems, at least based on my view, staff reports, talking to staff, talking to city attorney, seeing what we can do to actually implement, practical solutions and ideas. And just her public persona on Facebook, holy smokes, like she said, like I was, first of all, she shares a lot of hoaxes and conspiracy theory posts about COVID-19. And, your job as a public official and a leader is to lead. Your job is not to say, oh, your thoughts or, what are your ideas on this? That's not leading. You are, conspiring with these people to spread lies that will hurt our community because people look up to you. And for her to utilize COVID-19 and share a post that said, if COVID-19 shuts down Planned Parenthood, it would have saved more lives than it killed, is not only just political gamesmanship, it's just horrifying. So, I can keep going on about this.
Yeah, but I'm sure. There is even the recall petition itself is a laundry list of various complaints, right? Yeah. So, but let me present the dilemma I have with this issue to you, and it is that I feel that without a campaign bankrolled by the same political forces that have caused turmoil in our city and the firing of our city manager and police, chief of police in previous years, the same force, the Police Officers Association of Santa Ana, bankrolled this effort. And so on one hand, it's like, is the enemy of my enemy my friend? Or do you see this? Do you think this recall could have ever occurred without such influence?
I don't know. Don't have a crystal ball to figure out, how that would have happened. Yeah. But what I do know is that it did happen, right? 16,000 residents, voters signed that petition. They got enough signatures. And now it's going to go to the voters. The voters will get to decide with their mail-in ballot by May 19th what to do about this situation. So for me, because of that laundry list of things that I, shared with you, there is a lot of concern because some people might say, oh, well, she's just one vote of 7. But that person on that dais has a position of authority and power to influence other people and to build a bench that will help her grow her candidacy, her position, etc. So I think that, for me is important enough to support this recall. Now, do I support, am I getting support or whatever from the POA that's supporting the recall? No. The only one, I think, of the candidates who has said, I'm not supporting, I'm not getting their support, I'm not getting their endorsement, because I was there February 2019 with a lot of other residents saying, please don't give them this raise. We are, we don't know what the numbers really are going to be. We don't, this was supposed to go to help parks and school, not schools, but streets and all services. And so I asked them not to. But at the end of the day, for me, she is someone who is actively doing harm right now. And I think that warrants us to saying, let's exercise our vote, exercise our right, and get her recalled.
Right. I definitely hear that. And like you said, we can go down the laundry list of, why do I hate thee? Let me count the ways.
I don't hate anyone, but I vehemently disagree with her.
Right. Not you. The community, individuals, but just in general, the stances of that we, have known her to take. There's a reason why she got elected. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact that folks, just see Latino and, on there, and they're like, yeah, that's me right there. Woman, all right, cool, Latina woman, Cecilia Iglesias, sounds good. And then. And a lot of the positions perhaps that she even has, conservative positions on gay marriage or choice and this and that are shared by Latino and Vietnamese communities, right? Everything that I've understood of a lot of the Vietnamese community is that it's very much conservative, anti-communist, but also, just what, would be mainstream kind of beliefs, while socially, progressive, maybe more like, economically conservative, really believing in this belief. If you work hard, then you're going to get ahead. All to say that, now she's in a position where, like Dylan was saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. She's not my friend, and you know, I don't have, I don't support her in any way. But at the same time, like, I do recognize the you know, the all the different things, because who has been my, I don't want to say enemy, but like who has been constantly attacking the things that community has wanted, whether it's community benefits ordinance or agreements, the district elections in Santana, you know, to even rent control and other community oriented funding, has been the Police Officers Association. You know, so that's my, you know, the most important, you know, things. Like, yeah, like, you know, like, I don't like her there. I'd like to see her go. Like, it would be great if, you know, somebody else could have funded this, but also could it be good if we can have people that galvanize voters because they stand on the right side of the issues and are able to build a movement, either like of donors and supporters that are willing to knock on doors and help get elected. So, so, you know, so that's important. And also, I think, you know, perhaps not taking POA money is starting to become a low-hanging fruit of sorts for folks, you know, trying to make their way into, you know, elections and trying to be community oriented. But I mean, how far are you willing to take it as far as like the, you know, trying to hold that community, the Police Officers Association accountable for this constant cronyism that we're seeing displayed, and the bad acting of the police officers. Because, you know, as you might have remembered, Rojas tried to clean up that department and he was ousted, and also for political reasons, along with David Carvajal, David Cavazos, sorry. But now we're into this place where, you know, we would really like to see some kind of bold stances on community policing, and a police oversight with real teeth. Is that something that, you know, you would champion for the community that's been seeking this kind of you know, like accountability?
So I think there are two things. First, I want to address your first issue, which is, you know, the POA and the influence in the city and all that other stuff. Well, I think first of all, you know, the POA has influence because of money. And when you're looking at the results of the elections in the last 2 years, you know, we know what happened, the candidates who supported by POA and those who weren't, right? And so one, they have an impact, but they don't have the same position as someone, in my opinion, who is literally the decision maker. And so I think we can disagree with the POA, but saying, oh, I'm not going to vote for this recall, even though I think everything about her policy is wrong. I think she's the wrong leader for the city. I think that she makes terrible decisions. Because we don't like the POA doesn't make the POA go away. They're still going to be here. And so I think that saying that, oh, I'm going to take this decision and just say no because I don't like the person supporting it, puts us in the same position in November. It doesn't change anything. So when I see this as an opportunity to remove someone who is harmful to our communities, I think that's an opportunity I'm going to take. And that's why I decided to run in the recall. If I didn't believe in that, why would I put myself through a 2.5-month campaign? I could have waited until November and run in the Asian ward, in a districted ward, and have 11 months to campaign. But that's how I feel about someone who is doing active harm to our community. And regarding police oversight, one of the things I care about is community policing, you know, better community policing, community-oriented policing. A story I've told some folks before is when I was younger, my home was burglarized. We were tied up for hours before the bad guys left. And it was either an officer, a detective, or some, you know, a translator, but they spoke Vietnamese. And my mom, my stepdad, they don't speak English. And how many officers do we have who speak Vietnamese? How many officers do we have who are from Santa Ana, who grew up here, who are from these communities, who are able to talk to you and say, hey, Jose, stop screwing up. I'm going to go tell your mom instead of throwing you in juvie, right? Those are the kind of things that we need to implement. I think police oversight is something that definitely should be looked at. You know, I was there when the city council said, hey, this is police oversight with the council and all that other stuff. But I'm always going to be on the side of more transparency, more accountability, and more input from community members, because even through this process, I'm talking to people that, you know, I otherwise wouldn't have talked to or known about or, you know, considered some other issues. And I've either changed my mind or just been more thoughtful about how I approach, you know, different issues. So that is definitely something that we should explore, and not just explore it to say, oh, we have something like that. It's to say, okay, is this something that is actually going to make a difference? Is this something that is actually going to reform relationships between, our community and our police officers? And is it something that is actually going to, truly benefit the community, not just a community that doesn't do anything, or just to have one that so we can name one, right? And so that's where, I want to get into the technical details of things. That's what I do every day as an attorney, is to be technical and to be specific. And that's what I want to see. And I want to talk to people about that.
Yeah, actually, could you elaborate on that a little more? I mean, how else do you think your professional background could help you here? Because, I mean, I'm not going to say any names, but we've had some people in the council that were less precise than you're talking about. But so, how do you think that you're...
like being an attorney?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah. So, where does this? So let's kind of roll back. When I started law school, in my master in public policy program, I wanted to work in education. I wanted to write education policies because, as I mentioned, my teachers, my public school teachers, were the ones who, brought me to college, brought me to, out of poverty with this education. And then I realized that I wasn't a teacher and didn't know anything about education, but I discovered the importance of local government, which is why I think it's so important for people to pay attention to city council, because where you live, where you work, where you play, are you safe? All of those things are dealt with at the city council level. Even immigration is done at the city council level because, whether something is criminalized or not, there are city codes that can criminalize behavior that leads to immigration problems. So all of those things are related. And working at Rattan and Tucker, my law firm, we represent a lot of cities all throughout Southern California. I'm the assistant city attorney in the cities of Duarte and LA, which is very Democrat, built out, kind of older, kind of small, and Menifee, which is very rural in Riverside County, exploding with development and very conservative. So having worked with all of these public agencies, I, really learned about land use. Like, what is good land use? What is development that fits the community? What are zoning laws that can actually be changed or implemented within the boundaries of the state constitution or state law? One of the things that I recently did before all this COVID stuff happened was the general plan EIR scoping meeting. I was there for 4 hours. I was there since the beginning to talk to residents who were involved, and I stayed afterwards to talk to people about, Senate Bill 330, which is a housing bill that makes it really easy for a lot of developers to build housing because there's a statewide crisis. Okay, if that's the process that we're in, how do we change zoning laws and land use in the city to accommodate that state law? But also, that's what I do on an everyday basis. I advise people elected in other cities to comply with these laws. And so I want to bring that experience to the dais, because what else does city council do besides public safety and housing and work?
That's important. I think Vin Sarmiento, council member, he's a lawyer, so definitely need more legal expertise and less career politicianism on that dais desperately. So we have a great opportunity for that in this moment.
I'm the only one who's never run for public office, so
there you go.
I'm definitely not a career politician.
Yeah, that's a difference.
So I did want to ask about so you said you worked for Crouton.
Okay.
Advising cities. So and so you advise the city of Santana as one of your cities as well on planning? No, not that one. Okay.
So,
but you are on the planning commission because you were appointed by Phil Becerra?
Yes, he nominated me and I was unanimously appointed.
And when was that?
December. It was on my birthday.
Hey.
Wow, happy birthday. Yeah, that's a good birthday present. Yeah.
So you have you've worked with Phil Becerra, you have a working relationship with him.
I've never worked with him in a professional, like a project or anything like that. So my position at Rattan, we have over probably about 150 attorneys, over 300 employees, give or take, right? 3 offices, 2 in the Bay Area, 1 here in Costa Mesa. We've had a long history with a lot of cities. We're the preeminent firm for that. And I'm very proud of having that experience because I really got to cut my teeth, as I said, with a lot of different cities, with a lot of different personalities and different projects. And so, like that's where my training ground is. But I work almost exclusively with public entities. So that can include, cities, water districts, school districts, community college districts, depending on, who the client is, but they're public entities. When I was appointed to the Santa Ana Planning Commission, I was conflicted out of every single matter that had to do, that anyone at the firm might represent involving Santa Ana for good reason, right? That's what we want. We don't want individuals voting on things where they can get a financial benefit. The other part of my job when I do work with private clients is to advise them on, conflict of interest laws and campaign finance and making sure we don't break the law or any, we're all complying with those really important issues. And so, yeah, I try to be, as thoughtful and obviously as careful and strict as possible to make sure that none of that happens.
Right. Yeah, that's important because, I mean, I don't know if you watch this show very long, but we have certain feelings about certain people, and so
Us?
yeah. Well,
No.
well, Dylan has his feelings. I have my feelings, which are very much expanded, and and so I think it's important to understand it's not just about Republican or Democrat. It's also about the type of Democrats that we're supporting. So, I don't know how long you've been around in politics and stuff, but I am no friend of Lou Correa, for example.
Oh, yeah. That just came out of the blue. I like how those are just randomly inserted through each episode.
Yeah, just any chance that I get. No, I mean, he was the only player in the game for a long time. A lot of people cut their teeth on politics, through his mentorship and other things. So it's not in and of itself, bad, but I mean, it's something that to me makes me not uncomfortable.
Queasy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes me concerned.
Okay.
About the type of
please be honest with your feelings.
Yeah, about the type of politics that we can expect, from folks, because I mean the positions, frankly, folks, like these LGBT issues, and it's a horrible what Ceci has done, but the difference between Ceci, for example, and Jose Solorio are not very much different. And also, like when people are candidates and then get elected, what they actually do, is very different, perhaps, or somewhat different from what they campaigned on. So, I mean, I would definitely love, some buy-ins on you, as far as the issues that we talked about, to really hopefully have oversight of the POA, because as much as we want to say, oh, Ceci's not just one, it's just one person, the POA has the ability to fund and win a whole council seat, so that there's not just one person, it's all these people that are voting with them or against them. But at the same time, wanting to have people that champion a true oversight, but also a true rent control that, as was mentioned by some folks in the comments, is able to be done for mobile home and for apartments. And as well as supporting the relationship between the public schools and the charters, the public schools and the council, because as I've also read and heard, it's a little weak. So what are perhaps some of the things that you would do on that front, as far as in strengthening the relationship between the public schools, which is very much a situation that's different from Ceci, who supports charters very much too.
Yeah, so I, as I mentioned, live on the west side in Santa Ana. It's literally the forgotten part of Santa Ana. If you go west of the river, people are like, what is this, like Westminster now? And it's definitely not, right? We're a huge part of the city, and we are in the Garden Grove Unified School District. When was the last time we had someone, or any students from Garden Grove Unified at the city council, or being, recognized or anything like that? There is a weak relationship there, and I want to see that strengthened, because that means if we don't have them there, if we're not at the table together, that means there are thousands of students in Santa Ana who are not being serviced properly. So I think that's really important. And of course, working with Santa Ana Unified School District is utmost important because it serves most of the city. as someone, I said, wanting to go into education policy and then now shifting to local government specifically, I know both of those things are important because you can't learn if you can't find a place to live and eat, that's safe. But also, if you don't have a good education, it's hard to get out of the same position that you were in the first place. So they really go together. They're very intersectional. And so that is definitely something where I want to, strengthen. That's why I've reached out to Garden Grove Unified School District President Walter Muñetón and say, like, okay, what are some things that we can work on together as officials in this area, even though we don't necessarily overlap. So that's to address that issue. But the other issue I want to address that you kind of started out with is, Congressman Correa. And like, I respect anyone who was willing to be a Democrat in Orange County when it was not, cool to be a Democrat in Orange County. I think that he has done a lot to help build the bench. And whether or not we agree with him 100% is, neither here nor there. But I do believe right now it's an opportunity for us to have a new generation of leadership in Santa Ana, in Orange County, right? When you're looking at, let's say the 4 candidates, right? Ceci's ran a bunch of times for Congress, for school board, for city council. Angie's ran for school board, and now she's running for city council. My other opponent, Nelida Mendoza, whom I respect and voted for in 2018, has been running since 2006 when I was in high school. She ran, for the seat in 2018 against Ceci and lost. She is running again now. And so for me, it's saying, we need to make room for the next generation of people who have good ideas, who are committed to the community, who are dedicated to making a big change. And we need to allow all of us to step up. And when you look at my, endorsements or people who are out there, I'm not getting kind of the establishment elected. I'm getting support from community members, neighborhood leaders, folks who are, on the dais, folks who ran against them, who are not on the dais, right? People from different political persuasions, ethnic backgrounds, rich, poor, all of that, because we are building a coalition of people in Santa Ana who care about specific Santa Ana issues, not, if you're a congressman or whatever, you're dealing with it here. So, those are kind of the things that I care about, like that I think that we need to work on. And so I'm really proud of that. And I'm just going to keep pushing. One thing I do want to say is, you're talking about Ceci and LGBT issues. I just got endorsed by Lavender Dems, who, I think is a really important voice in Santa Ana that a lot of our community, both in the Vietnamese community, might not embrace or understand, but it's our job to help them understand. And to do that, we have to have a diverse group of people banding together to make this change. Otherwise, we're just going to get the same stale, musical chair of politicians.
Right. Yeah, I really liked, what you had to say as far as like new blood, and I concur. I agree that we the champions of the past or whatever, those folks that were, don't necessarily need to dictate how far we can take it and how far we should take it. And there's, definitely room for improvement and bold ideas. And, so, I mean, here's a question that my good friend Dylan asked one of our previous guests. Do you consider yourself a progressive?
Yes. Okay. Of course, I would consider myself a progressive.
So that means to me that you don't take money from corporate PACs. Is that how you see it, or is that how do you
define it?
How do you define
it? Well, I think that first of all, there are a lot of ways to define progressive. My version is definitely not going to be your version. As far as I know, I don't have any corporate PAC money. But if there is, let me see. But yeah, no, I mean, our campaign so far, as of my last campaign filing, has, first of all, we've far out fundraised everyone else in the election. And it's not because I'm getting, all the secret money from somewhere. It's because it's locals, it's neighbors, it's friends, it's colleagues, it's community members who said, I believe in this campaign and what we can do here. And is it hard? Hell yeah. Do you think I want to call people for, and say, hey, I know it's really hard, and, ask for money, but, that's the conviction in this race. I think that we have to remind ourselves, and that's what I remind myself, that when I'm asking for this money, it's not for me. Definitely not for me. It's for the city, and it's for the vision that we have for the city. It's what we want to do in the city. And to do that, we have to pitch in together. So as of my last campaign filing, my average donation, as far as I remember, is like $200 or less. Right. And so it's not as though I'm getting a bunch of $1,000 checks left and right from folks. And, but, you know, I'm going to get support. I've gotten endorsements from labor, from unions, from folks who are, you know, working together. I'm very proud of that. And I'm not going to say, if that's what you mean by corporate PACs, then I say, hey.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, what unions have endorsed you or organizations?
So SEIU, Local 721, that's our Santa Ana employees, right? Orange County Labor Fed, Iron Workers, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, plasterers, cement masons, you know, the operation engineers. I can go on because these are folks who also see how important it is to have someone on the dais who has a vision, who has expertise, who has experience and commitment, right? When I say, hey, how do we make this development actually help our Santa Ana residents and workers? We got to do that. And that's with community benefits agreements. That's with, you know, exploring whether PLA works or maybe some other version, having that dialogue. Because in my community, no one knew what a union was, or it's dangerous or scary, because if you were part of a union, you'd probably get killed in communist Vietnam. So, you know, educating people about that, educating people that there's a different way to, you know, make money, to have a good life and raise a family, I think is really core to that. And that's why I'm super proud to have labor and union support. And I'm always going to be proud of it. No one can shame me out of that, because I think that unions are important and they're the reason why we have weekends. And, you know, like child labor laws. So
yeah, well, May 1st is coming up, so you can celebrate that history.
Yeah, virtual March, baby.
Take the streets online. Okay.
Yeah. It's just gonna be like Huntington Beach.
yeah. No, that's different kind of protest. Yeah.
Maybe somebody could just have like free a laptop down the street, and like all these people on Zoom can be on there and be like, see, it's not just one of us.
Whose street? Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. Dylan, do you have something you wanted to ask? I have
Yeah. So, I mean, this is going to be a pretty challenging one. And it's just, are you a cat or dog person? Okay, it's ouch.
Okay, you're asking me that because you saw my cat earlier. Her name is CJ Craig.
What's her name?
CJ Craig, like the press secretary from West Wing, but it's spelled Claudia Jean Craig. Shelter kitty, we love her. But I'm allergic to cats, but love is pain, right? So
yeah, the cat struggle is real. But a slightly more serious question is like, so if you were to get on the city council, I want a new Michelle Martinez, in that I want someone who has read stuff that's happening in the agenda and can bring up specific questions. And can you be that person for us? I mean, how are you familiar with the city processes and the legalese that comes along with this stuff, and the like Robert's Rules of Order and all that stuff? Like, I mean, how are you going to take that?
All right, well, let me roll up my sleeves, bro.
Okay.
I was just at a planning commission meeting as a city attorney. You know, a lot of those, when we're there, a good planning commission meeting or a good city council meeting means the city attorney doesn't have to say anything, right? It's because we've already taken care of those issues. But yes, Robert's Rule of Order, the Brown Act, public records, conflicts of interest, land use and zoning, CEQA, all of those things are things that I do on a daily basis. That is my job. My job is to advise, for example, when the city of Santa Ana was looking at ADU laws, right, accessory dwelling unit, and the planning commission had to adopt it. I can look at that because, you know what, I've been drafting those ordinances for other clients. You know, these are the bills that are affecting it or not. You know, what are some issues, and looking into that. I can look at an environmental impact report and say, okay, look, this looks sufficient. This doesn't look sufficient. Our comments are good. Our comments are not good. Response to comments. because that's what I do. And so when you say, can I sit on the dais and actually read the staff report? I do that. That's my job.
Right,
you know, someone pays me to do that. And so I'm willing to do it for a lot lower billable rate for Santa Ana, because that's our home. You know, my mom she's never going to know another home. I'm never going to know another home. And my husband has adopted this place as his home. And so I think that it's incumbent on us, for people who have the commitment and the background and expertise, to step up and do it. It's scary, that's for sure. And it's hard, burning the candle at both ends, because especially with COVID, you know, our clients are essential businesses. So, you know, figuring out court filings, figuring out what to do with, you know, meetings, and figuring out how to handle all of these executive orders is part of my job. So, but, you know, when you're committed and you have conviction and the courage of your convictions, you do it. And so that's why I'm here. And that's why I want to talk to as many people as possible to make sure we get that message out. That's why we passed this recall. And that's why we need to get Viet Phan elected May 19th, y'all.
There you go.
Boom.
Y'all.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. Period.
Y'all.
Record it. And that way we can like save it.
Yeah. Yeah. Clip that. Someone clip that.
Yeah. Just cut us out. We're not not cute.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yeah. So you know, like we could spend a lot more time on a lot of these issues. You know, we've spent a good amount of time on it. I really this is my first time meeting you, so you know, it's really great that, you know, to have you come on the show and, you know, and share your insight, your story. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, it's what's going to matter to my people in, you know, in the community, progressives, you know, concerned residents, advocates, is going to be like, you know, can you walk the talk? You know, can you, like, you know, like follow through with, you know, these positions, and get, you know, some you know, some more specific details into the types of plans that, you know, we can expect from Viet Phan as a councilwoman. So yeah, but you know, it takes time, it takes money, it takes people, boots on the ground, and knock on your doors, although not going to do that now, but you know, hopefully you have people making calls and letting folks know, you know, about these things. But you know, I really wish you the best, and I hope that you know, you do as much as you can to try to you know, have as many conversations with people that, you know, are going to have some tough questions for you, and hopefully we weren't too tough. We were, you know, just about as tough as Ceci, although people are saying like I was too, you know, cool with her. I'll take that criticism, but you know, we definitely want to stay, you know.
I asked who she voted for.
You know, you know, like I told her, and I'll tell you, and I'll tell anybody, like, you know, national politics is one thing, but the way that things trickle down and how it looks like as far as party politics, to me, it really matters. Who pocket are you in or not in? Are you in the police officer association, the tourism industry, the landlord, the realtors? What big money lobbyist interests are you, you know, in the pockets of, or listening to at the expense of the community? And if you're not, as I would like to think that you're not, then, you know, we have good things, you know, to expect from you. And, you know, we encourage folks to just hear what you had to say today, and, you know, make their choice about, you know, the recall and also yours. So I'll without anything else from you, Dylan, I'd love to give her, you know, just last words on before we wrap it up.
Last words. I'm not dying.
Last words. Your soliloquy.
Right. So, I mean, first, thank you so much for having me here. It was actually really fun. And I think you guys did hold my feet to the fire as much as we have in this short period of time. And, you know, I have the conviction that I am the most progressive person running in this race. Right? I was a Warren Democrat from the beginning because she, in my opinion, she had, you know, very progressive ideas, but also she had these plans. And as someone who's a technocrat, someone who is actually working on those things in my everyday life, it's really core to me, because we can have ideas, but if we don't have a practical way to implement them, they don't happen. So for me, that's really important, whether you're talking about Willowick, whether you're talking about police oversight, whether you're talking about land use and gentrification about the city, all of those things have to come with, plans, thoughtful processes. So, I hope that you check me out, talk to me, reach out to me, because I'm more than happy to answer any questions or concerns, because I get it. It's scary, right? It, like you said, there's all these different forces in the city. And for me, I am running on a platform from, of where I come from and my experience. So I hope that you vote yes on recall for sure. And, vote for me, Thai Viet Phan, with your mail-in ballot. So check out my website, thaivietphan.com.
Awesome. ThaiVietPhan.com. We'll drop it into the comment section. So once again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you,
Thai, and we'll be hearing more from you, no doubt.
Wednesday.
Oh yeah, tune in Wednesday. Actually, you could probably check our Facebook. We'll post a link to a debate that's going to happen on Wednesday.
That's right.
6 p.m.
Yeah.
Tune in.
Okay.
Spanish translation available.
All right, let's make this happen, y'all. Let's bring in a new generation of leadership. Let's go.
Woo!
Thanks a lot, Thai.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now. Oh yeah, we did it.
Woo!
Another show come and gone.
God,
just
it's so hard to say goodbye every time to you.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Yes. Yes. Yeah, let's rename the show Dylan's Whimsy. That'll be my new segment where I just talk about different things. Like I don't know, what does the audience want to hear about?
Nothing. They like the star of the show is gone.
Yeah. No, everyone tuned out. That's why that's why I just feel free to talk very casually at this part of the show.
I know. Please like us, follow us, share us. Yeah. Tune in.
Yeah, I guess.
All the people, every time this is your first time, we do these things. We have fun. We talk stuff, and we bring in the news and the people on the front lines of the issue. So, a lot of stuff is at stake. And, there's different forces and there's different battles and fronts in the war for a better, equitable, more just, more progressive future. And so, we're gonna see how this all plays out for sure. I was a little hurt though when she started like talking about plans and Warren. I was just like, it's okay.
Oh, I know. I saw you like perk up your button there a little bit. Yeah, you got hurt.
Don't worry, buddy.
Yeah, the comment about plans actually being implemented particularly stung there. Ooh, Biden. Okay, no, but no, that was great. That was a good interview.
Oh, my vote changed. What the heck?
Oh, yeah. I got something to mull over. So the arguments were made.
Right. And folks, I saw a lot of people commenting on different things. The need for her to have stronger stances on things. So, people are gonna continue to ask those questions and in all sorts of platforms. So I know she was on Manny Escamilla's show. Manny has a show. So,
woo! Yeah.
What is it called? The Santana Report.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. The black.
I want to see that.
The Black Rim Glasses Society podcast.
Shut up. Is it that? Oh, I want to see that. We should link to that.
Yeah, definitely. So, so the conversation continues.
Big time.
Yes on recall, no on recall, and if yes, who's going to replace Cecilia Iglesias? So you're going to have a show on Wednesday, right, Dylan?
Oh yeah.
Last plug. Where can people follow along? Puro Puro Policy Party. That's what it's called. I still like it better, just for the record. PPP.
PPP. You know me. Yeah. So on Wednesday, Connect to Council is organizing an online forum and debate. It's a two-part. First being a debate on the question of to do the recall. The yes position is represented by Tim Rush, and the no position is represented by Cecilia Iglesias herself. And then it'll be followed by candidate forum, including Thai Viet Phan, Nalita Mendoza, and Chicano. So they've all confirmed, and
There's gonna be questions from the audience section.
I think we're gonna field the questions from the comments, and then I think maybe the last 1 or 2 questions will be audience questions. What?
Oh, what? That's whack.
Say what? Yeah, where's the democracy, Dylan? Where's the transparency? Yeah.
You're
so, I'm gonna get canceled just for walking outside. So. No, not quite. But yeah, it should be good.
You better not give them softball questions like, "Are you a cat or dog person?" All right?
No, trust me. Connect to council.
One of those weak sauce questions. You're so effing out.
Yeah, man, you sprung that on me. I actually did have a question. I just forgot what it was at the last second. But yeah, thanks to everyone who watched. Yeah, I gotta sleep now, dude.
Okay, all right. I guess
that was a good outro, right?
That was.
I'm getting way better at these.
Yeah, you're awesome.
I do the best outros.
You actually thanked everybody for watching. I don't think you've ever thanked anybody.
Yeah, I usually insult the listenership. I usually belittle them and call them gentle listener. Like they're stupid. So I don't mean any of that. Like,
right. Okay.
Soberly.
All right. Well, while we have 20 people on with 20 of those, me, you, Edgar, my phone, and
I actually have a botnet that has connected via, like the dark web. It's like routing through Germany, and that's why we're getting so many views now. Yeah, let me turn those off.
Yeah.
Oh, zero views.
Yeah, like the barrel of oil prices. Damn it.
It has to go like, right? Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Know.
I want to thank.
Wait, hold on, Jose.
Yeah.
Can you do Donald Duck voice? Okay, so I think that's as far as I can go too. But how does someone actually say something while doing that? That's the part I don't get.
Yeah, you can do a few.
You can do some words.
You can do some stuff. Like I just do that sound.
Okay, thank you.
That's what the people.
Yeah. Woo! Jose's Funk Corner.
Come here,
Of course, Mickey. No.
I'm not Pluto. I'm sounding like Dylan. Dylan as Pluto.
Yeah, that was accurate. You had the correct amount of nasaliness.
Let me be clear.
Let's be clear.
Let's y'all need to vote for Joe, or you gets the orange again.
It puts the Biden on its skin, or else it gets the orange again. Yeah. Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Papa Obama.
Yeah.
He pops. He knows best. Like you can argue against him, man, but man, he says something. We gotta listen. Come on, line.
Yeah, that's right. Good times.
Anyways, so before I start ranting about Joe Biden, let me go ahead.
Yeah, that's good. You gotta cut it off.
Thank Benjamin Vasquez for offering poignant criticism at from my last show.
Hey.
No, just kidding. Big ups to Ben. And all the people that watched throughout. Posted questions.
Jed.
No, Jed hasn't watched in like years.
What?
Oh. Screw that guy.
Oh, ouch. Yeah. That's gonna hurt him.
Yeah, I know.
He knows you don't mean that. Go ahead.
No. I want to thank Annie Diaz for being an executive producer for the show.
Woo!
I want to thank Edgar Silva for being an awesome audio video engineer.
Yay.
And I want to thank all of our studio audience who would comment, shared, commented, and did all the things. So please tell all your friends that we're here every Monday night, whether you like it or not. You asked for us or not. We're bringing you the news that local, national, with a twist.
With a little bit of,
A little bit of that. Yeah. Pow, pow. So can't wait for the next show. We'll see who's
it's a mystery.
So yeah, holler at your boy. We can get you on and we can have these conversations. But without further ado, from Dylan Thompson and Jose Gloria and all of us on this Happening family, we are signing.
It's happening.
No es libertad, lo que tú vives es vulgar. Ser un esclavo sin descansar mientras que el burgués se aprovecha de tus labores. Hay que luchar para vencer este sistema capital. Hay que leer